Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Al Dekin, who is the Chief Revenue Officer and a co-founder at Locus Robotics. And we've had Locus on podcasts multiple times before. I got some of the Locus bots behind me here on my shelf as well. So big fan of them and definitely friends of the show. So I'm excited to get Al on. We haven't had him on before, and I'm just meeting him for the first time today, actually. And as one of the co-founders, interested to get his story on Locus and how it came about as well. And we're going to dive into a little bit on terms of where is the adoption for robotics in the market right now. How are people leveraging robotics like the Locus solution to be able to expand on their existing real estate footprint versus maybe going out and getting additional buildings or doing different things in that nature? And also a little bit about how ROI around robotics has evolved over the last few years and what to be considering when making those calculations. And we're also going to touch on the new Locus HQ as well, where Al is joining us from today. So, Al, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Kevin. Pleasure to be here.
Definitely happy to get you on. Happy to get another one of the co-founders on the show here and hear maybe your side of the story a little bit. So why don't you kind of kick us off a little bit with, I guess, a brief overview of, for people that maybe are not familiar, what does Locus Robotics do? And tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, like how did Locus Robotics come to fruition, and how did you come to be a co-founder?
Yeah, no. So it's been an exciting. I just did the math on this. It's been an exciting 9 years for us
Mhm.
since we launched this business. Um, we've developed a solution for improving productivity and throughput in the warehouse, leveraging mobile robotics, so specifically AMR technology. But it's really more than just the robots. It's how we use them. It's the software that we've built to create workflows that are far more efficient. The easiest way to think about it is, and I'm sure others have shared a similar idea, is that we let robots do the unproductive task of moving things and movement around the warehouse and let people work collaboratively with those robots to do what they do best, which is the handling. So the combination of the two creates the efficiency, creates an increase in throughput in a time when, as the labor markets continue to evolve, um, they're still challenged. Labor costs are going up, and I think more to the point, the availability of labor these days has put significant strains on all aspects of what goes on inside the four walls of a warehouse.
Mm.
Uh, and it's interesting. I mean, when if I go back to the question of how did we get started and how did this come about,
Yeah.
I know you've spoken to a couple other members of the founding team previously, but
Mm.
I think I think the founding story is an important differentiator in terms of how we thought about solving the problem and building a business. Because there are a lot of robotics companies that have been developed over the last several years, and many of them have turned their focus to logistics or to warehouse automation opportunities. Um, but I think it's been our experience prior to the founding of Locus that I think has contributed significantly to our success. So, the very short story is there were several of us who started a 3PL business called Quiet Logistics. This goes way back
Right.
to 2008. This is where Bruce and Mike Johnson, myself, and a few others had set about to try and transform the 3PL industry by really developing a technology enabled or a technology centric platform for high growth companies seeking a delivery partner, namely a
Mm.
3PL. This was at the time when 3PLs were still hoping for 5 to 10 year contracts. They were not, but those contract lengths were shrinking. They were not particularly innovative around technology. The value prop for a 3PL was I have a building in this geography and I can quickly pull labor into it. And there were a lot of 3PLs who were chasing, quite frankly, relationships with very large sort of Fortune 500 businesses. And we saw the rapid growth of e-commerce as being one that to create significant opportunities with emerging brands and the like who needed a different way to scale and different way to provide service. And we felt the only way to do that was through some sort of technology differentiated approach. And as part of that, we were one of the first Kiva Systems customers, and many of
Right.
your listeners may appreciate the Kiva story, but we were the first, and I think the only 3PL business to ultimately be a Kiva customer prior to its sale to Amazon in
Mm.
2012. Um, and so, we had a background in developing WMS systems. We had a background in operation, and we were using Kiva systems as one sort of leg of the stool. And that was the original business, and that's what we felt was the original opportunity to innovate within logistics, but to do so in the service model as opposed to being a technology, vendor, so to speak. And then when Amazon bought Kiva, I mean, that was a watershed moment. I mean, I think that was a
Yeah.
watershed moment in many different ways. It opened up, I think, the eyes of many potential investors. It opened up the eyes of many potential entrepreneurs to,
Mm.
holy smokes, there's an opportunity to create value in this sleepy industry called logistics. And suddenly, not so sleepy to those of us who've been in it for a long time,
Yeah.
but certainly, if you think about the attention that logistics has gotten over the last 10 years, I think you have to thank Mick Mounts and the Kiva folks for the effort they put into developing something that was truly innovative and shed some light on the industry and created an opportunity for next generation technology. So many might know the story that, hey, Amazon bought Kiva and they took Kiva off the market. And so customers like
Mm.
us were fundamentally faced with some very dramatic strategic decisions because we no longer had access to one of the legs of the stool that differentiated our service model in the marketplace. So, very long story short, after considering many different options, we came to appreciate that, you know, while we're in the world of robotics,
Mm.
what really was I think more valuable and relevant in the long run was our experience in the market, our knowledge of workflows, our ability to build software that could ultimately take advantage of robotic capabilities. And so
Mm.
we made a decision to try and build a solution and leverage the other technological assets we had already built. And ultimately, that proved to be what I believe, and many of our customers have pointed out to us has differentiated the solution that we developed. Namely, it was developed by a company that knew the problem. We had been running buildings. We'd been in operations for many years. We knew what it was like to manage labor. We knew what the actual processes were in the warehouse. And we could speak to them. We could build a product to support improvements to those processes, and we
Mm.
could translate all of that to a specific value prop that resonated with what became our customer base. So, yeah, the origin story I think is important because it's one of the reasons why I think we've been successful to date.
Mm. Absolutely. And I think it's such a incredible story, I would say, because it is kind of, you really hit a point where, basically what like you said, one of the three legs of the stool or whatever that we were relying on to differentiate ourselves is now gone, right? So what are we going to do moving forward, right? And and in some cases, like, for a business, that could be crippling in a sense, right? But you guys took a look at it and said, like, well, why don't we do our own thing, right? And maybe, make it better in the process too at the same time. And I think it's very interesting to see that. And I think, that's certainly a difference there where you come from managing that world already and the operations aspect of it and understanding really the problem set that's there and then trying to create the solution for that problem that you yourself know firsthand, right? And I think that makes a real difference when you're developing a solution there, especially for the logistics industry. And you mentioned the the sleepy logistics industry. I had to laugh there because I think people in logistics are like sleepy. Like I'm probably not getting sleep in logistics, right? Uh, so, but I think it's really interesting there how you've been able to grow it, and obviously one of the leaders in the logistics robotics space now. So tell us a little bit about what do you think kind of stands out about Locus, and how have you really been able to kind of position yourselves to be one of those leaders in the market?
It's a good question. I mean, lots of people, ask the question, what makes you different? Why are you where you are? Why do you have the customers that you have? And I think there's a couple of things. I think first of all, we entered the market from a point of credibility, as I already mentioned.
Mm,
And I think
yeah.
it's when you don't have a product and you're trying to enter a market. What you have is your experience, and you have the opportunity to build trust that you can build something that is going to solve a problem that the people have articulated, right? So to be able to connect those dots, I think out of the gate, that was critical. We were not a shiny object looking for a problem. We knew exactly what we were
Mm,
trying to solve for. We knew the magnitude of the challenge. We knew the magnitude of the opportunity, and we developed a very elegant way to create value for customers and for operators, and like I said, had the ability to translate that based on our history and our experience. But from then on, so it's one thing to be able to enter a conversation and to come across as somebody who knows of what they speak, but um, then it becomes a question of, I would say, maniacal focus on customer and on customer
mm,
success, which is important for a number of reasons. One is, in the industry we're in, we certainly seek perfection, but we always know that something will happen.
mm,
There's the unpredictable nature of operations. There's the knowledge that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. There's also the funny idea that nobody pays attention to operations and fulfillment until there's a problem, and then everybody pays
yeah.
attention to it. So
Yeah.
we're in that world where we have to be prepared to be, on the same side of the table as our customers, and be incredibly focused on moving forward, not backwards. So, the focus on customer success has been critical. The focus on being attached to our customers at the hip has allowed us to ensure they're successful. Point one. Point two is that success begets additional opportunity, so expansion
Mm,
opportunity. And then thirdly, it's where we continue to learn about additional opportunities in the market, whether it's ways to make our product stronger or seek adjacent opportunities for new form factors or whatever it may be. But we wouldn't have relationships where we're running, 6, 7, even over 30 sites per customer
mm,
if we didn't have that focus, if we weren't delivering value. So it became incredibly critical that the math worked, that the ROI worked, that the solution worked, that if there was a problem, we responded yesterday, not tomorrow.
mm,
And all of that leads to a level of trust and willingness to continue to expand. And I always use this expression with my team that you have to earn the right. You have to
mm,
earn the right to have another opportunity. You have to earn the right to be in a conversation about a new product. You have to earn the right just to be in front of your customer every day. So and I would say, to be fair, that mentality, obviously, it's, we're in sales, and
Mm,
we are customer centric by nature. But starting with Rick, our CEO, and then looking across all the other stakeholders in the business, that attitude permeates just about every function within Locus. So,
mm.
it's one thing to have a cool shiny object, but we set out to build a business and build strong customer relationships from day one.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's such a great point there, especially when you look at our industry in general, because there's no real breaks in a sense, right? Where we can just try and let's just try and do something cool here, right? Like it's okay, yeah, we can do something cool, but it needs to add value, like right away, basically. Right? We need to be able to either increase our throughput, be more efficient, save cost, whatever, or deal with the challenge that we're facing. And because the shipments, like they don't stop, right? They don't slow down, right? So I think it's very important there, like you said, to have that customer focus and see like, how are we adding value immediately and how are we able to continuously add value. And I think that's very important there. So you mentioned earlier that it's been about 9 years now for Locus. So obviously, lots of changes in the landscape of what technology looks like, just in general in the warehousing industry. So tell us, I guess, from what you're seeing in the market, your perspective. I mean, where are we right now? As you know, we're closing out 2024. Um, where are we in terms of the warehouse industry and adoption of robotics?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Kevin, because you look at a company like Locus. I mean, we've grown significantly, so there's a
Hmm.
question of absorption, adoption, et cetera, that we get asked quite a bit. Um, I would say there are a number of different ways to look at that. You can look at it from a customer penetration perspective. You can look at it in terms of number of sites, et cetera. You can look at it in terms of functions within the warehouse. So it's a complicated question, or maybe it's a complicated answer to a simple question.
Mm.
In that I still believe, we believe at Locus, it's still very early days. There are core functions that have garnered a lot of focus. So when we launched our business, we focused almost exclusively on each picking. Like we wanted to do
Right.
one thing and do it really, really well. But as we've built strong customer relationships, we started to continue to expand where we can impact. So from going to picking to put away, for example, from doing each picking to case picking. So there's still, even within a building, you could make the statement that, hey, we're in X number of buildings,
Mm,
which is a fundamental metric. But even though you're in the building, the question is how much of the process have you penetrated within that building, right? So,
mm,
you can look at other players in the industry. There's opportunities for us even to add value to other installed solutions, for example. So it's a complicated. It really is a complicated answer to a simple question. I think suffice it to say, just based on how we look at all the different types of opportunities in the market, it's still very early days.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think that we've seen, certainly from like my perspective, you've seen that, there's certainly been penetration with some of the larger players that are out there, right? That have, some resources and stuff, and they've been able to test and try things and try different things along the way over the last, several years to get to, where they can utilize automation heavily and robotics heavily. But I still think there's a huge opportunity, right, for those mid-market, smaller sized businesses to get that penetration of that. And I think we're starting to see some of that. And I'm curious. I mean, are you guys seeing more traction there now, or at least like more interest, maybe more inquiry from those types of mid-market businesses now as well, looking for robotic solutions?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, our business is pretty well spread across several different segments. We have a really strong presence in sort of the broader 3PL market.
Mm,
We've got a really good and growing presence in retail, dominated by e-commerce. We've got a really good presence in healthcare, and we've got a strong foundation in industrial. So we look at the market in terms of, that's one way to segment the market. But even within 3PL, I mean, 3PL itself is segmented in a way that a lot of the players will work with large, Fortune 500 companies, but many
Mm,
of them too, their core business is for high growth sort of mid market companies and brands as well. So you're seeing a lot more, I'll say, technology enabled pursuits from 3PL companies. We actually play a really strong role in supporting those new business pursuits for our 3PL customers. See a really strong uptick in those types of opportunities. So yeah, whether it's direct or whether it's through partners or others, there's clearly an appetite for automation in sort of that mid tier market, because the problems are universal. I mean,
mm,
if you can't get labor at a Fortune 500 operation, for a large retailer, you're certainly not going to get you're certainly not going to have any advantage as a smaller player either. If
mm,
Amazon's out there trying to compete for all of this labor and raising the rates, how can a mid tier retailer or
yeah,
mid tier 3PL be expected to compete? And the only way they can compete is by trying to innovate, and bring technology to bear to reduce the dependency on labor. And I think that's an area where we've been successful. You think about our business as being, sort of divided into two other sort of operational segments.
mm,
Different way of thinking about it is we have a strong business in brownfield. That's where we started. So you have
yeah.
existing operations. I I was going to laugh at one of your earlier comments about, we never stop shipping product. We look
Mm.
at it almost like, in a brownfield environment, we're trying to change the tires on a bus while the bus is rolling down the highway, and that's
True, true.
and it's an interesting challenge. But like that's we've been really successful there, and providing opportunities for people to innovate in an environment where it is hard to innovate. It's hard to innovate in a brownfield existing operation, but our type of solution has very real advantages that it can be deployed without disruption, right? So and it can be
Mm,
can be scaled in over time. So that's been if you're talking about mid-tier companies where they have one or two sites where, again, they don't have the luxury of stopping the bus. um, you know, there we our approach and our solution is very valuable and very attractive to those types of situations. And then you get up into the upper end of the market where we see both brownfield and even greenfield opportunities.
mm,
It's I'm going to go back to my comment earlier, which is about earning the right. I mean, we started largely automating brownfield operations, but as people started to appreciate that, hey, there's real value in AMRs, and AMR solutions went from being an idea to a reality. Um, we are in the right to be part of a bigger conversation about how do you bring sort of a new level of flexibility to some of these higher
mm,
throughput, sort of purpose built greenfield buildings. So it's been a really interesting journey. I mean, we see different types of opportunities emerge depending on the size of the company, the industry they're in,
mm,
the complication of their network, growth factors, the need for flexibility, et cetera. So that's been a very, very interesting journey over the last several years.
mm. Very interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting to see that too. And like you said, the challenges, no matter the size of the business or where they're at, are pretty much the same throughout. The industry, because you have even these mid markets. Typically, you talk about the labor challenge, and I know you guys have a big focus on addressing that for people. And you look at like I'm in New Jersey here, and obviously, very densely populated with warehouses, right? It's difficult to get labor because there's so much competition for that labor that's out there too as well. So very interesting there. And I want to talk a little bit about, because, and this is kind of something I think that would lean itself to mid market too. You start to get to that level of growth, and you're looking, do I expand into another facility or multiple facilities to be able to take advantage of the opportunities I have and continue to scale and grow my business as a warehousing business. But there's some opportunity there to maybe be more efficient within an existing building and maybe get more out of that building before you go to another building or invest in additional real estate. So I guess tell us a little bit about how companies are able to leverage the Locus solution to be able to maximize that existing real estate footprint, and how is that different than maybe 10 years ago or so, when there wasn't like a solution to maybe maximize more and be a little more efficient with your space utilization.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's actually different depending on where you are geographically as well, so that you could answer
Mm,
the question differently. I mean, there are really sort of, at least in my mind and experience, are sort of three principal um, considerations when you think about a warehouse and where it needs to be, um, and decisions you make about your network. One is
mm,
access to labor and the ability to hire people to do the work. Two is the size of the facility and what you can store in it. Right? That's a consideration. So you got throughput considerations and you got storage considerations. And then the third one is, where are you geographically? So you could have the
mm.
best operating warehouse ever, highly efficient, and it's in New Jersey. But if all your customers are in California, then you're
Yeah.
losing out from a shipping perspective, right? So if you look at the total cost of delivery, and again, this depends whether you're in e-commerce or you're satisfying retail stores or whatever. There's nuance there, but oftentimes, everybody has to look holistically at the cost to transport as well, and like that dictates, some of the decisions you make about the buildings you're in and when you want to be in these buildings and the total storage capacity or not, right? So we tend to try and look at all three when we think about flexibility. But to go back to
Mm,
your initial question, one is, I think, just by being able to flexibly increase throughput in a building means that um, we can get stuff out the door in a way that reduces the amount of storage you ultimately need, right? So this
mm,
overall supply chain is about efficiency in all aspects of the supply chain, not just about storage. So, if you have trouble getting stuff in and out, you're going to necessarily need more space. So, throughput and the ability to get stuff out the door can be impactful in terms of what you need to store in a building and overall supply chain efficiency. So that's one thing. The second is, there is always the inevitable, I need to store more product. The business is getting bigger.
mm,
Our solution is unique in that, um, yeah, I think we're the only solution available to drive throughput in an environment that is mezzanine. So we have pick towers,
mm,
and you've put in pick towers to drive exactly what you just stated, which is inventory storage efficiency in terms of square footage of warehouse floor. Um, a lot of pick towers in this world that have been built, where there's significant investment to lower the overall cost of storage over a square foot of real estate, right? And
mhm,
still a significant opportunity to do that, to pursue that model. Pick tower gives you flexibility when it comes to evolution of your product catalog, your product type. It's one thing if you're a retailer and you start selling small things, but then you get into the bigger products and you need more space. Being able to adjust the storage type and the like. There's a lot of advantages to mezzanine storage environments and pick towers and the like. But they're also hamstrung in terms of the type of automation that you can really leverage there. I mean, you have the traditional conveyors and the like to try and create some efficient movement from floor to floor and ultimately out the door. But that's an environment where the uniqueness of AMR technology and specifically the agility that we have gives us the advantage to deliver a higher level of throughput and value over that very efficient storage. So those combinations, whether they're brownfield existing investments or even consideration of new investments, that combination can be a significant game changer. But at the same time, um, I always come back to maintain some level of flexibility. I mean, when we were in the operations business, we did a lot of apparel, for example,
Mm.
and it just sort of one of those learn by doing type of situations where
Yeah.
we got into doing fashion, and we'd launch a business and launch a customer in the summertime, which is not which is pretty normal. Everybody wants to be live so that they can grow and scale and be ready for peak, right?
Right.
And so, but you launch with you launch with t-shirts and swimsuits, right?
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, this inventory shows up long about September as people are now trying to stock the shelves, so to speak, for fall winter. And you realize that, oh my God, I got all these puffy coats and boots, and where are they going to go, right?
Yeah.
The size of these things, and you're like, now you're scrambling to reorganize your storage and accommodate, what a location that once held 20 t-shirts now holds two puffy coats. And it's
Mm.
like that's that need for flexibility oftentimes is critical. I mean, I often ask people, potential customers or current customers, hey, do you know where your business is going to be in 18 to 24 months? And if you do, okay, you have one path of optimization. But if you don't, if you're adding new products or new channels or whatever, that flexibility is critically important. So
Mm.
it's a long-winded way of saying I agree. Storage is a consideration, but the ability to move closer to customers, the ability to change as the business changes, the ability to balance optimization and throughput with flexibility, I think is paramount. So
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is, a lot of unrealized potential for a lot of buildings to have that kind of storage flexibility. And, you mentioned the mezzanines there and the pick towers and, going vertical more and trying to figure out how to do that before actually getting to that step of, oh, we need another building, right? Or we need a bigger building, right? Or something like that. I think, there's a lot of things that can be done there. And it sounds like, and I've seen a lot of, stuff from Locus lately, especially over the last year, talking about mezzanines and things like that, and how the Locus bot can coordinate that and fit into that, I guess, setup as well, which I think is really interesting. So very interesting stuff with you here, Al, and really appreciate you coming on. And speaking about new real estate and new buildings and things like that. You guys have a new building, right? So new Locus HQ. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and kind of what that means for the company and how that's going to help prep you guys for the future of Locus now as well.
yeah, no, it's exciting times. I mean, on many different levels. One is it's nice to be, after COVID, have people back in the office, be working face to face, and there's a certain energy that comes out of that, and certainly can feel it here. We're a couple months into this new facility, and it's awesome.
Mm.
Um, so that, I mean, just that alone actually is great. On the sales side, we travel a lot anyways, but when you're back here and you're in the office, just to be able to be reconnected it's been awesome.
Mhm.
I think more to the point of growth. This is this is a significant development for us in terms of being able to consolidate. We've grown quickly enough that we had a number of buildings to assist in that growth. So being able to bring
Mm.
it again back all under one roof helps us create additional efficiencies and positions us for continued growth. And then I think it's also an important statement to our current customers and even the market in general that hey, we're building a business here. We're not just
Mm.
building robots. We're not just building a solution. But when you come here, you can see it's evident the investment in supply chain, the investment in support, the investment in all the other parts of the company that are required to build a business, not just a technology. It's highly visible here and highly evident. So and since we've opened the doors, we've had a significant number of existing customers and prospects come through, and I think it's if they're looking to do business with somebody that's here for the long term. They certainly walk away with an appreciation for the fact that we are an established company and have a bright future. So very very effective for us on many different levels.
Yeah, absolutely, and congratulations on that. I mean, I think it's a, like you said, a testament to the growth and continued growth to come as well, and obviously a great place for the team to get together. And I see some of the Instagram reels and stuff that the team puts out there in the office, so get to see a little bit of that culture in there too as well. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, Al, and learn a little bit more about Locus and hear some of your perspective on the robotics market in general as well and what's happening out there. So appreciate you coming on the show. If people are interested in learning more about Locus Robotics, what's the best way to do that?
www.locusrobotics.com or a Dekin, Dekin, at locusrobotics.com. Just reach out to me. I'll talk to anybody who wants to learn more. So
All right, perfect. And we'll definitely put all that information at the newwarehouse.com as well so people can easily find it. So, Al, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
hey, really enjoyed it, Kevin. Appreciate the time.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, the New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesaresexy.com and get your own.